The house always smells like cinnamon. It's my little stubbornness to make cinnamon ginger tea every morning, just like I've done for the last 43 years since I married Robert. He loved the smell, said it smelled cozy, and even 7 years after his death, I continue the ritual. My name is Nancy Caraway. I'm 67, and I live alone in a small house on the outskirts of Union City. The house is old, in need of repair in places, but it's ours, mine and Robert's. We've been paying the mortgage for 30 years, saving for everything. In recent years, I've thought about moving to a smaller apartment, but memories hold tighter than cement. Today is Tuesday, cleaning day. I wiped down the framed photos our wedding, Aiden in his graduation suit, a family photo with the Grand Canyon as a backdrop. Once there were three of us. Now I'm alone. Aren't you bored here, Mom? Aiden likes to ask that question when he comes over once a month for the obligatory family dinner. So much room for one. He looks at the house as an asset to sell. I can see it in his eyes, but I don't say a word. My son has always looked at the world through the lens of profit. I rub the last photo, Robert in a rocking chair on the porch, a year before his diagnosis. His eyes are still alive, with a slyness. It's the same slyness Aiden inherited, but in his father it was combined with kindness, and in his son it was combined with calculation. I put the rag and polish in the pantry. My house is modest, but everything is in its place. A small living room with a worn sofa that I cover with a crocheted plaid. A kitchen with yellow curtains I sewed 30 years ago. A bedroom with a double bed, though I only sleep on one half, the right side. The left has always been Robert's side. The phone rings. It's a landline. I still have the old-fashioned disc dial machine. I only use my cell phone for trips into the city. Mom, it's me. Aiden's voice sounds cheerful. Too cheerful. I can smell a catch. Hello, son. I answer, sitting down in the chair by the phone table. How are you? Is your back bothering you? He asks, with feigned concern. It's fine. I know, my son. This concern is just a prelude to the real purpose of the call. Look, Mom, here's the thing, and here it comes. Perry and I are having a little financial difficulty. It's nothing serious, just a temporary cash flow problem. I'm not talking. Aiden's had a temporary cash crunch about once every 2 months for the last 5 years. Perry's hours at the fitness center have been reduced, and my bonus is delayed, he continues, literally by the end of the month. You know, the mortgage, the car loan. I remember very well how I dissuaded him from buying that SUV. Why do you need a car like that in the city? I asked. Mom, in my line of work, you have to fit in, he replied, a mid-level insurance specialist who wants to look like a company director. How much, Aiden? I ask bluntly. We both know where this conversation is going. 2,000, three at the most, he answers quickly. I'll pay it back with my next paycheck, I promise. The last 3 loans he never paid back. Mom, what do you need this money for? You have enough to live on. And we are young. We have a future to build. Young. Aiden's 42. At his age, Robert and I have already paid off half the mortgage and put away a decent amount of money for college for him. Aiden, I only have a pension, I say, even though I know that's not entirely true. I have a little savings, what's left over from Robert's insurance after paying for his treatment, and what I've put away from my years as a secretary at Blank and Associates. Come on, Mom, he said, a hint of irritation in his voice. I know about Dad's insurance. I'm saving that money for a rainy day, I replied. It's a rainy day every day the way you're saving, he said, irritation welling up in his voice. You haven't even bought yourself a new jacket in 3 years. That's true. My jacket is really old, but it's still quite decent. I didn't see the point in buying a new one when the old one does its job. That's what my parents taught me growing up in the post-war years. Don't throw away something that still works. Look, Aiden, I'm trying to be firm, but not harsh. You haven't paid back the last 3 loans. I can't go on forever. Jesus, Mom, he's interrupting me. Are you taking notes? You're doing the books on your own son? I didn't pay it back because we had an unexpected expense. You know how hard it is to get a job these days. I know Aiden's job is fine. Mabel, my neighbor, is friends with the receptionist at the insurance company where Aiden works. According to her, the company is doing well and there are no layoffs planned. Unforeseen expenses, I repeat. Like the new TV you bought a month ago? How did you? Oh, Mabel told me. He snorts. That old gossipy girl pokes her nose into everything. Yeah, we bought a TV. Our old one broke. What's the big deal? I saw their old TV when I went to Aiden's birthday party last year. Huge flat panel, half a wall. Perfectly serviceable. I can't give you 3,000, Aiden, I say. I don't have that kind of money. Come on, Mom. His tone becomes husky. I'm your only son. Who are you saving for? I'll get it all later. That's it. A phrase I've been hearing more and more often these past few years. Who are you saving for? It's like I've got one foot in the grave and my only job is to keep his inheritance. Aiden, I'm still alive and I plan to live for many more years, I say, feeling my anger boil over. And I need that money for medicine, for home repairs, for emergencies. I have cash flow problems too, you know. What kind of expenses do you have? He's practically screaming. You sit around. You don't go anywhere. You don't buy anything. That money's sitting there dead weight, and we need it now. I want to tell him that the reason I'm not going anywhere is because I'm saving every dime. That I'm not buying a new stove because I'm saving up for knee replacement surgery. My insurance only covers part of it. That I gave up my new glasses last month because I loaned him the money to pay off my car loan. I can give you $500, I say after a pause. That's all I can afford. 500? He's clearly disappointed. Mom, that's not even funny. We need at least $2,000. That's all I can give, I repeat. Okay, he sighs. At least 1,000. Please, Mom. We really need it. I can feel my resolve melting. It's always been like this. I couldn't say no to my boy. Even when he's grown up and become a man, I still see him as that little Aiden who came running to me with a broken knee. Okay, I give up. 1,000. But this is the last time, Aiden. I mean it. Thank you, Mommy. He instantly changes his tone to the affectionate one he used to use when he was a kid begging for a new toy. You're the best. I'll send Perry for the money tomorrow, okay? I can put it on your card, I say. No, no, cash is better, he replies quickly. I'm having some problems with my card. I'm dealing with the bank. That's another lie. I know he's not in trouble with the bank, but with his creditors. Cash is harder to trace. Okay, I agree. Have Perry come over this afternoon. I'll be home. Great. I love you, Mom, he exclaims and hangs up without waiting for me to answer. I sit staring at the phone. Love you. Aiden only says those words when he gets what he wants. The rest of the time, I'm a burden to him, an old woman with an outdated outlook on life. I get up and go into the kitchen. I make another cup of cinnamon tea and look out the window at the backyard. Robert planted an apple tree there the year Aiden was born. It's a tall, spreading tree now. The apples are especially plentiful this year. What did we do wrong, Robert? I mentally ask my husband, looking at his picture on the refrigerator. Where did we go wrong, Aiden? Robert looks at me from the picture and sort of shrugs. He's always been gentler with the boy than I have been. He'll still find his way, my husband used to say when Aiden dropped out of college after his sophomore year. He'll grow up. he consoled me, when my son spent his first paycheck on a video game console instead of paying us back the rent on the apartment. But Aiden hasn't grown up. He's 42, and he still lives like there's no tomorrow. Big mortgage, expensive car, credit cards, parties, vacations, all on borrowed time. I pull an envelope of money out of my dresser drawer, my emergency cash savings, and count out $1,000. Then I put the envelope back in and close the drawer. $1,000 is a month's pension and half of what I'm saving for the surgery. One last time, I promise myself, even though I know I'll probably give up again when he calls in a month or two with another financial problem. The doorbell rings. It's Mabel with blueberry pie, our little Tuesday tradition. Nancy, honey, you look upset, she says, looking at me shrewdly. Did Aiden call? Mabel has known my son since he was in diapers and sees right through him. Yes, money again, I admit, putting the kettle on. How much is it this time? She asks, cutting the cake. 1,000, I answer, taking out the cups. Nancy. She shakes her head. You know he won't give it back. I know, I sigh. But what am I supposed to do? He's my son. And you're his mother, not his ATM. Mabel says stiffly, you've worked your whole life to provide for him. Now it's his turn to stand on his own 2 feet. Mabel's right, of course. But saying no to Aiden is beyond me. Robert has always been a hero to him, and I'm just a mom somewhere in the background, making dinner and washing socks. Even now, 7 years after Robert's death, Aiden says, Dad would have understood. Dad would have given money. You know what pisses me off the most? I say to Mabel, pouring tea, that he thinks I'm not living anymore, like I'm just holding on to his inheritance. Then it's time to show him that you're still very much alive. Mabel raises an eyebrow, and that the money is yours. I look at my friend, and suddenly I feel something inside me that I've long forgotten. A core that's always been there, but that I've been hiding for the sake of family peace. Maybe you're right, I say, sipping my tea. The phone rings again. I look at the caller ID. It's Aiden. Mom, listen, Perry can't make it tomorrow, he says hurriedly. Can I come by myself in an hour? We need the money right away. I look at Mabel questioningly. She shakes her head. Okay, Aiden, I say. I'll be waiting. When I hang up, Mabel looks at me with disappointment. Don't give me that look, I tell her. This is the last time. You said that last time too, she reminds me. Yes, I agree. But I wasn't so angry then. Thursday morning, I wake up with a headache. It's 6:30 on the kitchen clock. My body has a decades-long habit of waking up at the same time, even if I didn't sleep well the night before. And I had slept really badly. Aiden came to pick up the money yesterday, and when he took it, he didn't even sit with me for 5 minutes. Sorry, Mom, I'm late for a meeting, he threw, stuffing the envelope into his jacket pocket. He hadn't even had his tea. I put the kettle on and pulled out a jar of cinnamon. Despite the economy, I don't skimp on cinnamon. It's my little comfort, my link to the past, to Robert. My thoughts went back to Aiden. He was such an affectionate boy as a child. When he turned 7, he saved up his pocket money for a week and bought me a little ceramic cat statue for my birthday. It still sits on the mantelpiece. She looks just like you, Mommy, he said then. Just as beautiful and warm. What happened to that boy? When did he turn into this calculating man who only sees me as a source of money? After breakfast, I decided to pay the bills. I took a folder of receipts out of the drawer. Electric, water, phone, insurance, property taxes, plus a monthly contribution to my knee surgery fund. I put it in a separate account so I wouldn't have to spend that money on anything else. I turned on the old computer Aiden gave me when he bought himself a new one. It's enough for your primitive needs, he said then. Indeed, it's enough for me. I use it only to pay bills and occasionally for video calls with my high school friend Beth, who moved to Florida. I logged into online banking by entering the username and password written on a card in the same bill folder and froze looking at the screen. Instead of $3,625, there were only $42.17 in the account. I blinked, thinking I'd made a mistake. Checked again. Same balance. I opened the transaction history. The last transaction was a withdrawal of $3,583. Yesterday, 14:30. At 4:30, Aiden was at my place, getting $1,000 in cash from me. I felt a chill go through me. I grabbed my phone and dialed the bank's number, poking at the buttons with trembling fingers. First National Bank of Union City. How may I help you? The pleasant female voice on the other end of the line sounded inappropriately cheerful. Hello, my voice trembled. This is Nancy Caraway. They took almost all the money out of my account yesterday, and I didn't do it. Just a moment, Mrs. Caraway. Let's check. There was a pause, a clack of keys. Yes, I see the transaction. Withdrawal via online banking, transfer to an account. Wait a minute. Aiden Caraway's account. I didn't make that transfer, I exclaimed. That's my son, and I didn't authorize him to. I understand your concern, Mrs. Caraway, the girl interrupted me. But according to our records, Mr. Caraway is the trustee on your account. He has legal access. I froze. A trustee? Then I remembered. After Robert died, I'd actually added Aiden as a trustee, just in case something happened to me. The bank manager had suggested it as standard procedure for elderly clients. But I didn't give him permission to take my money. My voice broke. I'm afraid that under the terms of the power of attorney, he has full access to the account. The girl explained patiently. If you want to revoke the power of attorney, yes, I interrupted. I want to revoke it immediately. To do that, you need to come to the branch with your ID card. I can make an appointment for you with our manager. I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. Make an appointment for me today, as early as possible. There's a window at 11. Will that work? Yeah, I'll be there. As I hung up the phone, I sank back in my chair, feeling my heart racing. Aiden, my own son, had stolen my money. The money I'd been saving for medicine, for roof repairs, for a rainy day. I dialed his number. It rang. Long beeps. He didn't pick up. I called again. Same result. I had to get ready. I got up slowly, drank a glass of water, and started dressing for my trip to the bank. The blue dress I wear to all formal meetings. Low-heeled shoes. A pearl brooch. Robert's 30th wedding anniversary gift. When I was almost ready, the phone rang. I rushed to it, thinking it was Aiden, but it was Mabel. Nancy, I made a blueberry muffin. Can I drop it off for you at lunch? She asked. Mabel, I could barely hold back tears. He stole my money. Who did? She didn't understand. Aiden. He took almost all the money out of my account, $3,500. There was a pause. I'll be right there, she said finally. Don't go anywhere. 5 minutes later, Mabel was at my place. She listened to the whole story with her lips pressed together, and then she said firmly, I'm taking you to the bank. Joseph works there as a security guard. He'll make sure you get in without waiting in line. I nodded, grateful for the encouragement. We drove to the bank in Mabel's car, an old Chevy that she keeps in perfect condition. Inside, things really went quickly. Joseph, a gray-haired man with a military bearing, took us straight to the manager, a lovely woman in her 40s. Mrs. Caraway, I'm Samantha Lowe. She shook my hand. What can I do for you? I explained the situation. Samantha listened attentively, nodding occasionally. Yes, I see the transaction in the system, she said, looking at the monitor. And I see that Mr. Caraway has been the trustee for your account since 2018. I want to revoke that power of attorney, I said firmly. Of course you do, Samantha nodded. That's your right. But I must warn you that we can't automatically refund money that has already been withdrawn. It was an authorized transaction. But I didn't authorize it, I exclaimed. Legally, by adding Mr. Caraway as a trustee, you gave him the authority to handle the funds, Samantha explained gently. If you believe the funds have been misappropriated, you can go to the police. The police. Report your own son. I imagined explaining to the officer that my son had stolen my money, how it then becomes public knowledge to all the neighbors, the shame, the humiliation. No, I shook my head. Just revoke the power of attorney. Samantha nodded and started filling out the forms. 15 minutes later, it was done. Now, Mr. Caraway no longer has access to your account, Samantha said. However, if you have other accounts, there are no other accounts. I shook my head. Only a transaction account, but it's at a different bank. Check that too when you get home, Samantha advised. And, Mrs. Caraway, I'd recommend changing all your passwords. I nodded, feeling old and stupid. How could I not have thought of Aiden being able to use power of attorney in this way? As we walked out of the bank, the phone in my bag vibrated. A message from Aiden. Mom, thanks for helping me with the money. Talk to you later. I showed the message to Mabel. She snorted. Dash, help with the money? He stole your entire savings and calls it help? I didn't answer. Everything inside me was boiling with a mixture of emotions: shock, disbelief, resentment, anger, but most of all, the pain of betrayal. When I got home, the first thing I did was check the account for the surgery. To my relief, it was untouched. Aiden must not have known it existed. Then I tried calling my son again to no avail. I left a voicemail message. Aiden, we need to talk. It's urgent. Mabel insisted on staying with me. She made tea, took out the muffins she'd brought. You have to talk to him straight, she said, and demand the money back. And if he refuses, I asked. Then you go to the police, Mabel said firmly. I realize he's your son, but he's a grown man who stole from his own mother. It's a crime, Nancy. I knew she was right. But the thought of reporting Aiden to the police was unbearable. At 5 in the evening, as Mabel and I were finishing our third cup of tea, Aiden finally called. Hi, Mom. His voice sounded carefree. Did you get my message? Aiden, I tried to speak calmly. Why did you take money out of my account? Pause. Oh, you already noticed. There was no remorse in his tone. Well, I told you we needed the money. 1,000 wasn't enough. You had no right to take that money without my permission. My voice shook with contained anger. Technically, I did. He grinned. You made me a trustee yourself, remember? I made you a confidant so you could help me when I needed it, not so you could steal from me. Come on, Mom. He sounded annoyed now. Stealing is such a big word. I just borrowed it. And you don't need that money. It's just sitting in an account. And Perry and I deserve a vacation after all these years of work. I felt something inside me break, the last thread linking me to the image of my loving son. A vacation? I questioned. You took my vacation money? Yes, we're going to the Bahamas. He sounded impatient. Perry's been wanting to go for a long time. There's a great discount there now, but it's still not cheap. The flights, the all-inclusive hotel, but it's worth it. We've been working our asses off all year. I didn't say a word. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My son had stolen my life savings to go to a resort. Aiden, I finally said, I've been saving that money to fix the roof, for medication, for emergencies. Mom, your roof is fine, he said. You're just being paranoid like always, and your insurance pays for your medication. Not all of it, I said quietly. Aiden, I demand that you give the money back. He laughed. Right now? I'm sorry, I can't. We leave tomorrow morning. I'll give it to you when I get back. Tomorrow? I felt the blood drain from my face. You can't leave with my money. Mom, calm down. His tone became condescending. It's just for a week. We'll be back next Friday and I'll pay you back. I promise. You promised to pay back the previous loans too, I reminded him. Well, there were circumstances. He was clearly in a hurry to finish the conversation. Look, I gotta go. Perry and I haven't gotten everything together yet. We'll talk when I get back, okay? No, it's not okay. My voice became harsh. Aiden, I revoked your power of attorney, and if you don't return the money by tomorrow, I'm going to the police. Pause. You won't do that, he finally said, but for the first time there was uncertainty in his voice. I will, I said firmly. It's stealing, Aiden. Mom, are you crazy? Now he was angry. Report my own son? Over 3 grand? You're gonna get that money when I die. You said you were saving for a rainy day. Consider it a rainy day for me and Perry. Aiden, it's my money. I earned it. And I'm still alive in case you haven't noticed. Yes, you are, he snapped. And you'll be alive for another 20 years, judging by the way you're taking care of yourself. What am I supposed to do? Wait for you to… He paused. He paused. Until I'm dead? I finished for him. Is that what you were gonna say? Jesus, Mom. I didn't say that. Dash, he yelled. I'm just saying that you don't need that money right now. Perry and I do. We're young. We should be living, traveling, enjoying life. On me? I asked quietly. What difference does it make whose expense it is? A family is supposed to help each other. You're my mother. You should want the best for me. I want what's best for you, Aiden, I said, tears welling up in my throat. But that doesn't mean I should let you steal from me. It's not stealing. He sounded genuinely outraged. It's redistribution. That money will still be mine sooner or later. I'm just taking it in advance. I closed my eyes, feeling something cold and hard rise up inside me. A rage I've never felt before. Give it back. The money, I said in syllables. See you tomorrow. Or what? He was back to being mocking. You'll go to the police? Don't be ridiculous. You'll never do that. Check, I said, and hung up. Mabel, who had heard the whole conversation, looked at me wide-eyed. Nancy, she whispered, are you really going to go to the police? I shook my head slowly. No, but I have a better idea. I suddenly remembered something from my days as Mr. Blank's secretary, something Aiden didn't realize. And that information could be a lot more useful than a police report. The night was restless. I tossed and turned in bed, going over the events of the day and the conversation with Aiden in my head. Anger turned to resentment, resentment to bewilderment, bewilderment to determination. I'd been different once, soft, compliant, willing to give up the last of my life for my family. Robert often joked about it, called me our domestic saint. But deep down, I'd always had a steel rod in me. It just rarely found its way out. Now I could feel that rod growing in determination. At 6 in the morning, I gave up, got out of bed, and wandered into the kitchen. While the kettle was boiling, I sat at the table, absent-mindedly going over the bills I'd intended to pay yesterday before I discovered the money was missing. And then it hit me. My gaze stopped on a receipt from First National, the same bank where Aiden and I had opened his first serious account 12 years ago. He was 30 at the time, just getting a job with an insurance company, and Mr. Blank, my boss, had recommended this bank. Nancy, it's important for a young man to start with a good credit history, he said at the time. I remembered Aiden and I sitting in the bank manager's office. Mrs. Carraway, Since your son is just starting his credit history, it would be best if you acted as a co-borrower, the manager suggested. Aiden was still embarrassed at the time. Mom, I don't want to involve you. But I insisted. I wanted to help. And now, looking at the receipt, I remembered that the account was still open. Aiden was still using it, and I, as co-borrower, had legal access to it. I perked up. If he hadn't closed the account, and knowing Aiden, he wouldn't bother. I had access to it. And if he'd transferred the money he'd stolen from me into that account, I rushed to the phone and dialed the bank's number, but the answering machine said the branch wouldn't open until 9. 3 hours of waiting seemed like an eternity. At exactly 9:00, I dialed the number again. This time, a young employee answered, and I asked to be connected to Samantha Lowe, the manager who had helped me revoke my power of attorney yesterday. Mrs. Caraway, how may I help you? Samantha's voice sounded concerned. Ms. Lowe, I have an account at your bank where I co-borrow with my son, Aiden Caraway, I began. It was opened about 12 years ago. Just a minute, let me check. I heard the keys clattering. Yes, I see that bill. Does the number end in 8492? That's it, I nodded, even though Samantha couldn't see me. I'd like to know the balance on that account. Sure, 1 second. Pause. The balance is currently $4,716.32. My heart beat faster. Almost $5,000 was more than he'd stolen from me. He must have added his own money for the trip. Could you check the latest transactions? I asked. I'm particularly interested in whether there was an incoming transfer yesterday for about 3,500. Yes, I see a transaction from yesterday, Samantha confirmed. Incoming transfer in the amount of $3,583. Sender is Nancy Caraway. That's right, he wired the money to this account. Samantha, my voice became firmer. We talked to you yesterday about my son withdrawing money from my personal account without my authorization. That's the money. And since I am a co-borrower on his account, I am entitled to those funds, correct? Samantha paused. Technically, yes. As a co-borrower, you have equal rights to manage the account. Then I have 2 questions for you, I continued. First, can I freeze this account? And secondly, can you tell me if any bank cards have been linked to it? As for freezing the account, yes, you can do that, but you have to come to the branch and sign the relevant documents, Samantha answered. As for the cards, just a moment, let me check. There are 2 cards linked to the account. One is in Aiden Caraway's name, and the other is in Perry Caraway's name. I took a deep breath. 2 cards means both my son and daughter-in-law will be out of funds if I freeze the account. They're planning to leave today, probably already at the airport. Samantha, there's something else I need to find out. Could you check to see if there were any major charges to this account today, like airfare or hotel payments? Let me see. Yes, at 6:30 this morning, there was a payment to Caribbean Travel in the amount of $2,842.27, and another payment at 7:45 to Paradise Bay Resort, $1,220. They've already paid for the trip, paid with my money. Thank you, Samantha. I'll be at the branch in an hour to freeze the account. After the call, I sat down, trying to calm my trembling hands. They really did it, stole my money and spent it on a luxury vacation when I'd saved every dollar, denying myself new clothes, my medication, the simplest of pleasures. They'd thrown money into the wind, and not just any money, my money. I remembered Robert saying, Nancy, don't spoil the boy. He should know the value of money. But I didn't listen. I was always giving in. I always made excuses. He's still young. He's just going through a rough patch. He'll get better. How many times have I told myself those words? I decided that before I went to the bank, I should call one more person, Colleen Matthews, a former colleague at the law firm. After Mr. Blank's death, she became managing partner. We weren't close, but we maintained a friendly relationship. And most importantly, Colleen was married to Richard Matthews, Senior Vice President of First National. Nancy, Colleen exclaimed when she heard my voice. How many years? How many winters? How are you doing? Hello, Colleen. I tried to speak calmly. I have a little problem, and I need some advice from someone who knows banking. Richard is just at home, working from home on Fridays, she said. I'll get him for you. A minute later, a deep masculine voice answered the phone. Nancy, it's good to hear from you. Colleen said you had some questions about banking? I summarized the situation, leaving out the emotional details. Richard listened attentively, occasionally asking clarifying questions. I understand, he said when I was finished. Yes, as a co-borrower, you have every right to freeze the account, but keep in mind that it's a two-way street. If your son and daughter-in-law have already left, that's exactly what I want, I interrupted. I want them to be broke on a vacation paid for with my money. It's cruel, I realize that, but no, Nancy, Richard said, suddenly soft. It's not cruel. It's fair. They need to understand the consequences of their actions. And by the way, there's something else you can do. What's that? I'm tense. Not only can you freeze the account, but you can temporarily block their cards. You don't have to come to the branch to do this. Just call the hotline and tell them that the cards may have been compromised. As a co-borrower, you have the right to do this. What happens then? I asked. The cards will stop working immediately. Any attempt to pay with them will be refused. To unblock them, you'll have to come to the bank in person, at the branch where the account was opened. I could feel the determination building inside me. Thank you, Richard. That's exactly what I'll do. And, Nancy. He paused. I know you don't want to file a police report, but consider filing a written claim with the bank. If you can prove that the power of attorney was misused, there's a chance you can get your money back. I'll think about it, I replied. Thank you. After the call, I took a deep breath and dialed the bank's hotline. The answering machine offered several options. I chose card problems and soon heard a live operator's voice. Hello, my name is Brian. How can I help you? Good afternoon. I tried to speak clearly and confidently. My name is Nancy Caraway. I'm the co-borrower of account number. I gave Aiden's account number. I need to block both cards linked to that account right away. May I ask the reason for the blocking, ma'am? Brian asked. I thought for a moment. Richard had advised me to say the cards had been compromised, but I didn't want to lie. The funds from the account are being used without my consent, I finally said. As a co-borrower, I have the right to suspend access to the account until the circumstances are clarified. I see. Brian's voice was neither surprised nor disapproving. Apparently, these calls were not uncommon. I need to ask a few verification questions. Please give me your address and date of birth. I answered all the questions, and Brian confirmed my identity. Okay, Mrs. Caraway, I've blocked both cards linked to the account. The holders will not be able to make any transactions. Unblocking will require both co-borrowers to appear in person at a bank branch. What about the account itself? I want to freeze it completely. To freeze the account completely, you need to visit a bank branch, Brian repeated. But the cards are already blocked, so there will be no transactions on them. Thank you. I was relieved. Can I ask if there have been any other transactions today, apart from the 2 payments this morning? Wait a minute. I could hear Brian tapping away on the keys. Yes, there were a few other transactions. At 8:57, cab fare to the airport, $68.19. At 9:25, the Heavens Harbor Cafe in the International Terminal, $42.36. So they're already at the airport. They've probably already checked in for their flight. Thank you, Brian. You've been very helpful. I hung up the phone and exhaled slowly. It's done. Now all we have to do is wait. Mabel arrived around 11 as promised yesterday. She brought fresh pastries and a thermos of coffee. Well, did you do anything about it? She asked, arranging the buns on a plate. I told her everything I'd done this morning. Mabel listened without interrupting. Only her eyebrows rose higher and higher. Nancy Caraway, she exclaimed when I had finished. I never thought you were capable of such determination. I didn't think so myself, I admitted, pouring coffee into cups. But when I imagine them enjoying life on my money while I'm counting every cent, you're absolutely right, Mabel said firmly. They deserve a good lesson. But, she hesitated, what are you going to do when they call? And they'll call when they realize the cards aren't working. I thought about it. Honestly, I hadn't thought that one through. I don't know, I admitted. Maybe I should just not answer. Mabel shook her head. No, that wouldn't work. You have to tell them to their faces why you did it. They need to realize that you can't steal from your own mother with impunity. I nodded. Mabel's right. We have to see this through. We spent the afternoon talking, reminiscing about the past. Mabel talked about her children, her 3 daughters, who had moved all over the country, but called and visited regularly. I couldn't help but feel a prick of envy. Why can't my family be the same? What had I done wrong? I remembered how much Aiden had loved it as a child when I read to him before bed, how he proudly showed me his drawings in elementary school, how he cried, tucked into my shoulder, when the girl he liked in 8th grade rejected him. When did things change? Maybe when Robert died? Or before, when my husband and I tried so hard to give our son everything we couldn't get ourselves that we forgot to teach him to appreciate what we got. At 3 in the afternoon, my cell phone rang. Aiden's number. I showed the screen to Mabel. Here we go, she said. Are you ready? I nodded and hit the answer button. Dash, dash. Hello? Mom, what the hell? Aiden's voice sounded angry and scared at the same time. What did you do with our cards? I froze them, I said calmly. What? How could you? Why did you do that? He was almost shouting. The same reason you took my money. My voice remained steady. Because I could. Are you crazy? Now he was definitely yelling. We're stuck at the Miami airport. We have a layover and the cards don't work. We can't even buy food. Miami, so they're on their way. First layover. It's a very unpleasant situation, I said, almost as unpleasant as finding out your only son stole all your savings. Mom, it's not funny. There was a note of panic in his voice. We have to be on the next flight in 2 hours. We have to get to the hotel, pay for Aiden, I interrupted. Do you hear yourself? You stole my money, spent it on a luxury vacation, and now you resent me for taking what's mine? But we're in another country. He sounded almost pitiful. You can't just leave us without money in a foreign country? Couldn't you just leave me without money at my age? I asked. Aiden, I've worked all my life. I've saved money my whole life. I denied myself everything so you could go to a good school, so you could have fancy clothes, so you could go to soccer practice. My dad and I didn't go on vacation for 10 years to pay the mortgage and get you ready for college, and this is how you repaid for all that. Mom, his voice was now pleading, I understand, I really do. I was wrong, but you can't do this to us. We'll be stuck here penniless. The cards will be unlocked when you return my money, I said firmly. All $3,583. But I don't have that kind of money, he exclaimed. We've already spent it all on the tickets and the hotel. Then you'll have to find it somewhere, I said. Maybe call some friends? Take out a loan? Sell the watch? I don't know, Aiden. It's your problem, not mine. You, you can't do this to your son. His voice shook with anger and disbelief. Could you do that to your mother? I asked quietly. There was a heavy pause in the phone. Look, he finally said, his voice lowering. I'll pay you back, I swear. As soon as we get back, I'll find the money. Borrow it, take an advance at work, whatever. But right now, please unblock the cards. We're in a foreign country. We have no money. Our flight leaves in 2 hours. I almost gave up. I almost did. But then I remembered his words. You don't need that money. Perry and I deserve a vacation after all these years of work. No, Aiden, I said firmly. I'm not unlocking the cards. You'll only have access to the account when you get my money back. Then call the American Embassy. Dash, he yelled, because we'll be stuck in Miami without a dime. Is that what you want? Your son sleeping on the street in a foreign country? I want my son to become a man and take responsibility for his actions, I replied. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go. I hung up the phone, feeling my hands shaking. The phone immediately rang again, but I didn't answer it. After a minute, a message came through. Mom, please call me back. It's important. I put the phone away. Well? Mabel, who had been watching me the whole time, asked. They're in Miami on a layover, I said. Aiden's in a panic. And how do you feel? My friend asked cautiously. I wondered, what do I feel? Regret? Gloating? Pain? Justice, I finally answered. I felt like justice had finally been served. After Aiden's call, the evening passed in a strange silence. Mabel stayed with me until 6, drinking tea and talking about nothing, carefully avoiding the subject of my son. When she left, I felt tired. The emotional strain of the last 2 days was taking its toll. I went to bed earlier than usual, around 8, but I couldn't sleep. My mind was reeling with fragments of conversations with Aiden, memories of the past, doubts about what I was doing. The phone rang several times, but I didn't answer it. In the morning, I saw 6 missed calls and 3 messages, all from Aiden. In the last one, sent at 1 a.m., he wrote, We missed our flight. We're spending the night at the airport. Hope you're happy. I felt neither contentment nor schadenfreude, only muffled pain and a strange desolation. I made breakfast, did my usual morning rituals, but I did everything on autopilot. At 9 in the morning, as I was washing dishes, the phone rang again. It wasn't Aiden's number, it was an unfamiliar one with a country code. I hesitated, but then answered it. Dash, dash, hello? I said cautiously. Hello, Mrs. Carraway? Came a woman's voice, tense and at once irritated. It's Perry, my sister-in-law. We've never been particularly close. Perry always seemed too superficial, too focused on material things. One day she looked around my living room and asked, When was the last time you renovated? In the 90s? And laughed as if she was joking. But there was no trace of her usual mockery in her voice now. Good morning, Perry, I tried to say calmly. How are you? How are we? Her voice shook. We're stuck in Miami, sleeping on benches at the airport. We don't even have money for food, and it's all because of you. I didn't say anything, letting her talk. Aiden called you 100 times. Why didn't you answer? Dash, she continued. We're in a foreign city with no money, no way to fly home. Do you realize what you've done? I understand, I replied calmly. Do you realize what you and Aiden have done? What are you talking about? She sounded a little shrill. We were just trying to relax. Is that a crime? Stealing money from your own mother is a crime, I said firmly. Nobody stole anything, Perry shouted. Aiden just borrowed it. He was gonna pay it back. You're his mother. You're supposed to help your son. Helping him, yes. Letting yourself be robbed, no, I said. God, you're so callous. There were tears in Perry's voice. We missed our flight. We lost the money for the hotel. We're stuck at the airport. All because of your pettiness. Pettiness. She called my unwillingness to be ripped off petty. I felt a wave of anger rising inside me, but I forced myself to keep my voice steady. Perry, I said, I've worked all my life. I've saved money to provide for Aiden. That money he took was my last savings. And you call it petty that I want it back? So what? Her voice got angry. You don't need the money anyway. You're old. You don't go anywhere. You don't buy anything. And we're young. We have a life to live. Why should we deny ourselves when you have money lying around that you don't spend anyway? I closed my eyes. That's it. The true attitude. I'm old. I don't need anything. I only exist to provide for their needs. Perry, my voice grew colder. I've been saving that money for the surgery, for medication, to renovate the house I live in. But even if I was saving it for a trip to the moon, it's mine, and no one has the right to take it away. What surgery? What are you talking about? She seemed genuinely surprised. Aiden didn't say anything. Because Aiden didn't ask, I cut her off. He just took it without thinking about the consequences, and now you're both facing those consequences. There were muffled voices, rustling. Apparently Perry was talking to Aiden. Then I heard his voice. Mom, it's me. Look, we're really desperate. We don't have a dime. We can't fly or even get out of the airport. We don't have money for a cab. I'm sorry you're in this situation, I said. But you created it, Aiden. Yeah, I get it. He sounded impatient. I was wrong. I shouldn't have taken the money. But this is no time for moralizing. We're in trouble. Can you unlock just one card? Just so we can go home. And then I'll sort it out, I promise. I was silent, thinking about the situation. Part of me wanted to help them. Aiden was my son, after all. But another part of me remembered how many times he'd broken his promises. Mom, he sounded impatient. Can you hear me? We need the money right now. Aiden, I finally said, you have friends, colleagues. You could ask someone to lend you money, send it over Western Union. I can't ask anyone, he exclaimed. It's humiliating. Humiliating. Asking your friends for help is humiliating. Stealing from your own mother is not. Isn't what you did to me humiliating? I asked quietly. God, I can't talk about this anymore. He was almost shouting. Yes, I took your money. Yes, I was wrong. But this is not the time to get into an argument. We're in another country with no money. Can you understand that? I understand it very well, I said. And you know what else I understand? What it's like to be penniless. I experienced it yesterday when I found out you'd taken all my savings. At least you have a roof over your head, he snapped at me, and a refrigerator full of food. And we are sitting at the airport, hungry, tired, and I've lived my whole life saving on everything. My voice became harder. Denying myself basic pleasures so that you could have everything you need, and more. Denied myself new clothes so I could buy you fancy sneakers, taking extra hours at work to pay for your summer camps. Your father and I never took a vacation after you were born. All the money went to you. And now you're getting revenge for that? He grinned bitterly. No, Aiden, I said. I'm not taking revenge. I just want you to understand what it's like to be penniless. Only I've lived my whole life like this for you, and you stole the last of it from me. There was silence in the phone. All I could hear was his heavy breathing. Now you know what it's like, I continued. And unlike me, you're in this situation not because of self-sacrifice, but because of your own greed. Mom? His voice suddenly changed from irritated to pleading. Please, I get it. I really do. Just help us get out of here. At least get us tickets home. We'll come back, and I'll fix it. I sighed. Aiden, I've been helping you my whole life. And how have you repaid me for that? You still don't realize it's not about money. It's about trust. It's about respect. Everything you trampled on when you thought you could just take my life savings. I understand, Mom. His voice sounded almost pathetic now. I swear I realize it. Just help us now, and then I'll do whatever you say. I almost believed it. I almost did. But then Perry's voice came through the phone again. Give me that? She must have snatched the phone from Aiden. Listen to me, Mrs. Carraway. You can't do this to us. This is, this is blackmail. We're gonna sue you. On what grounds, Perry? I asked calmly. Because I froze an account where I'm a co-borrower? It's my legal right. You, she gasped with indignation. I always knew you hated me. You always have. You're doing this on purpose to ruin our vacation. Perry, I don't hate you, I said, but I don't love you either, especially after you supported Aiden in stealing my money. No one stole anything. She raised her voice again. You're just a mean, petty old woman who's jealous of the young. You don't want us to be happy. I felt something snap inside. No, not anger. Something cold, hard. Perry, my voice turned icy. I don't envy you. I feel sorry for you. Because your idea of happiness is spending the money you stole on a week in a fancy hotel, and then go back to the same problems, the same debts, the same emptiness inside. Because real happiness can't be bought with money, especially stolen money. You have no right to lecture me, she screamed. You're not my mother. That's right, I agreed. I am Aiden's mother, and I can see that you're not a good influence on him. What? She gasped in outrage. How dare you? Aiden! Aiden, can you hear what she's saying? I heard a rustle, then Aiden's voice again. Mom, it's not Perry's fault. I'm the one who decided to take the money, he said tiredly. Look, this has gone too far. We can't stay at the airport forever. Please help us. Unlock at least one card. Aiden, I said, I'm not unblocking the cards until I get my money back. But I don't have that money right now, he exclaimed. They're in an account we can't access because of you. The money you stole from me, I clarified. Find another way to solve the problem, Aiden. Ask your friends for help, colleagues, borrow from the bank. I have no one to ask. There was desperation in his voice. Everyone I know is either far away or they won't give me that much. This is it, the truth about his life. A 42-year-old man doesn't have a single friend who can bail him out in a time of need. Then call the credit card company, I suggested. Ask for an emergency loan. I already have loans. They won't give me more. He was getting angry again. Mom, I don't know what you're trying to do. Do you want us to starve to death at the airport? Of course not, I said. I want you to realize that actions have consequences, that you can't just take other people's money and think you can get away with it. I get it. I swear I get it, he exclaimed. But we need help now. I took a deep breath. Aiden, you have a watch. It's expensive. I remember you bragged it was worth over $3,000. Sell it. Pause. Are you kidding me? He finally said it. Sell my watch? They're a gift from clients. They're personalized. And my money is the result of decades of work, I replied. But that didn't stop you. They're different things. He was indignant. A watch it's a status thing. I can't sell it. Then find another way out, I said. But don't expect me to unblock the cards until I get my money back. So that's it? His voice turned cold. You're leaving your own son in the lurch? That punch was precisely timed. All my life I'd been afraid of letting Aiden down, of not living up to his expectations. But now, for the first time, I felt I could resist that manipulation. No, Aiden, I said calmly. You're the one who left your mother in the lurch when you took the money she needed. You created this situation. You're the one who has to deal with it. Mom, there was something akin to fear in his voice now. You don't understand. We're really desperate. We have no food, no water. We can't even get a cab into town. Ask the airport authorities for help, I suggested. Explain the situation. Surely there are services that can help passengers in emergencies. This is humiliating, he exclaimed. I'm not a homeless person asking for a handout. But you haven't been shy about taking handouts from me all these years, I said. And more than that, you haven't been shy about stealing from me. Aiden and Perry's voices came through the phone again, and they seemed to be arguing. Then I heard Perry's voice, sounding hysterical. She's messing with us. She likes to see us suffer here. She's always hated me. Aiden said something back to her, but I couldn't make it out. Mom? He turned to me again. Perry's on the verge of a nervous breakdown. She's having a panic attack. We haven't slept all night, haven't eaten since yesterday morning. Please, if you have any love left for me, help us. I closed my eyes. A drop of love. Of course there was. Despite everything that's happened, Aiden is my son. I loved him from the moment I first felt him move inside me. I loved him when he took his first steps, when he went to school, when he first broke his knee. I loved him even when he disappointed me, when he didn't live up to expectations, when he dropped out of college. But love doesn't have to be blind. Love doesn't mean letting a man wipe his feet on you. Aiden, I said, I love you. I always have, and I always will. But I'm not unlocking the cards until I get my money back. That's my final word. You can't do this. His voice trembled. You can't leave us here. I'm not leaving you, I replied. I'm just quitting being your cash cow. You have the solution, Aiden, literally on your wrist. My watch? You still talking about that? He started yelling again. I'd rather sleep on the street than sell it. It's your choice, I said, just like it was your choice to steal my money. I didn't steal it. I borrowed it, he shouted. But I see now that you never loved me. A real mother wouldn't do that to her son. That hurt. It hurt a lot, but I didn't let myself show it. A real son wouldn't steal from his mother, I said quietly. Goodbye, Aiden. I hope you find a way out of this. I hung up without waiting for an answer. Only then did I let the tears flow. The phone immediately rang again, but I muted it. I needed time to gather my thoughts, to see if I was doing the right thing. I walked out onto the veranda and sat in the old rocking chair. It overlooked the apple tree Robert had planted. The breeze gently moved the branches, laden with ripe fruit. What would you do, Robert? I mentally asked my husband, looking up at the tree. I could almost hear his answer. The same thing you would do, Nancy. Sometimes you have to be cruel to be truly kind. I didn't know if I would ever see remorse in my son's eyes. I didn't know if he would forgive me for this lesson. I didn't even know if I would get my money back. But I knew one thing. I would never let myself be manipulated again. I won't be treated like a second-class citizen just because I'm in my 60s. Yesterday, I would have given up. I would have unblocked the cards, let them fly on, spend my money on a luxury hotel and cocktails on the beach. But today, I was different. Today, I finally remembered who I am. I am Nancy Caraway, and I deserve respect. It's been 4 days of silence. Aiden never called again, never texted. I didn't know how they'd gotten out of the airport, where they were now, what was even happening to them. Part of me was worried. It was my only son, after all. The other part of me was stubborn that he was a grown man and should work out his own problems. On Tuesday, I got a call from Mabel. Nancy, turn on the TV, she said at once. instead of greeting me. Channel 12, local news. I found the remote and clicked the button. On the screen, a young anchorwoman with perfect hair was talking about the city's flower festival. I waited patiently, and a few minutes later, a story began about a Union City family in trouble overseas. The Caraway family from Union City found themselves in a predicament while on vacation, the anchorwoman broadcast. Aiden Caraway and his wife Perry were stuck at the Miami airport without funds due to bank card problems. The U.S. consulate came to the rescue and helped the family get home. Aiden appeared on the screen. He looked haggard, circles under his eyes, wrinkled clothes. Perry stood next to him, holding his hand and looking like she was about to cry. "It was a real disaster," Aiden said into the microphone. "Our cards suddenly stopped working. We couldn't even buy food or water. If it hadn't been for the consulate's help, I don't know what would have happened to us." "It was horrible," Perry echoed, and I saw a tear roll down her cheek. "We spent almost 2 days at the airport, sleeping on benches. I'm still in shock." The anchorwoman nodded with a sympathetic expression on her face. "What do you think happened to your cards?" she asked. Aiden and Perry looked at each other. "We're not sure," Aiden answered cautiously. "Maybe it was a cyber attack or a glitch in the banking system. We're still figuring it out." I snorted. "A cyber attack!" Not a word about them stealing money from an elderly woman and paying for it. The Caraway couple are now home and trying to get their lives back to normal after this ordeal. The anchor concluded the story. Carol Sutton was in the studio, Channel 12. I turned off the TV and dialed Mabel's number. "Did you see it?" she asked. "I did," I answered. "A cyber attack. I had to think of something like that." "Yeah," Mabel grinned. "They're good liars, I'll give them that. So they're back already." "I guess so." I felt my insides tighten. "And they'll probably be coming to see me soon." "Do you want me to come over?" My friend suggested it. "It's easier if someone's around." "Thank you, but I think I'd rather meet them alone," I replied. "It's a family matter." "Whatever you say," Mabel agreed. "But if you need anything, call me anytime." I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat at the window, staring out at the street, waiting for Aiden's car to show up. I was sure they'd come. They'd been too angry during our last conversation to just let it go. But the day passed in silence, and the next, too. On the third day, Thursday, when I was beginning to think that maybe Aiden had decided to stay away from me, the doorbell rang. It was Thelma, my niece, Robert's sister's daughter. We'd never been particularly close, only seeing each other at family gatherings. "Aunt Nancy." She stepped toward me and hugged me. "It's so good to see you." It was strange. Thelma had never shown such enthusiasm in meeting me before. "Thelma, what a pleasant surprise." I took a step back, letting her into the house. "What brings you to our neighborhood?" "Oh, I was in the neighborhood for work, and I thought I'd visit my favorite aunt." She smiled too wide, too fake. I led her into the kitchen and offered her tea. Thelma agreed, continuing to look around the house with some special attention. "How are you doing on your own, Aunt Nancy?" she asked when we sat down at the table. "It's a big house, so it must be hard to keep things in order, isn't it?" "I do," I answered briefly. "I like doing things around the house." "Yes, but at your age." She shook her head. "You know, my mother-in-law just moved into a nursing home. She says it's a lot easier for her. The food, the cleaning, the companionship. Maybe you should think about it, too." I looked at my niece carefully. She was about 35, stylish haircut, expensive clothes, and a completely insincere look. "Thank you for your concern, Thelma, but I prefer to stay in my own house," I said firmly. "I'm doing quite well on my own." "Sure, sure," she nodded quickly. "It's just, Aiden's worried about you. That's the real reason for the visit. Is that so?" I raised an eyebrow. And what's the real reason for his concern? Thelma looked away. Well, he says you've become forgetful, confusing dates, people. He's very worried. Dash, dash. Really, question mark. I sipped my tea. When have I ever been so forgetful? He told me how you accused him of stealing money the other day. Thelma lowered her voice, as if she were talking about something unseemly. Said he'd taken money out of your account, when in fact you'd transferred it to his vacation fund. And then you forgot and made a scene. So that's it. Aiden was making me look like a crazy old woman. That's an interesting version of events, I said calmly. Too bad it has nothing to do with reality. Dash Aunt Nancy. Thelma leaned forward. It's normal to forget things sometimes at your age. It's not a big deal. It's just that maybe it's time to think about living a supervised life. Aiden could help you with your finances, with your medications. Thelma, I interrupted her. Aiden stole my money. He used the power of attorney I gave him for emergencies to withdraw money from my account without my knowledge. And when I found out about it, he claimed I didn't need the money and he and Perry needed a vacation. My niece blinked, clearly not expecting such a direct answer. But, Aiden said. Aiden lied. I cut him off. And I can prove it. I have the account statements. I have a recording of the conversation with the bank manager. I have witnesses. My friend Mabel was with me when I discovered it missing. Thelma looked confused. But why would Aiden? I don't understand. Because he's afraid of the consequences, I explained. He's afraid I'll report him to the police, and he's trying to preemptively defame me by making me look like a crazy old woman. We talked for another hour or so. I showed Thelma the account statements, told her the whole story. She looked incredulous at first, but gradually her face changed. God, Aunt Nancy, I didn't know. She finally said, Aiden was so convincing. He said you'd started forgetting things, that he had to keep an eye on you. Did you ever wonder why he'd never mentioned my memory problems before? I asked. Why did that concern show up now? Thelma blushed. He said he didn't want to bother anyone. He was trying to handle it himself. But after the story with the cards, he realized he needed the family's help. So he asked you to convince me to move into a nursing home. I finished for her. Not exactly, Thelma said, embarrassed. He said that you'd be better off in a place where you had full-time care, and that it might be a good idea to get financial guardianship for him. For your own good. I grinned bitterly. Financial guardianship? Of course. Then Aiden would have complete control over my money, over my house. He could sell it, transfer the funds to his account, all perfectly legal. Thelma, thank you for telling me about this. I took her hand. I can see now that Aiden has gone much farther than I thought. I'm so ashamed that I believed him, Thelma whispered. I'm sorry, Aunt Nancy. Don't apologize, I smiled. You didn't know, and I'm grateful you listened to me. After Thelma left, I sat back in my chair and closed my eyes. So this is Aiden's game. He's not just trying to avoid responsibility, he's trying to take away everything I have. Make me look incapable so he can get control of my finances. This isn't just a family fight anymore. This is a real war. I dialed Mabel's number. Come over, I said. I need your help and advice. Mabel came 15 minutes later. I told her about Thelma's visit, about Aiden's plans. That bastard, Mabel exclaimed. How can he do this to his own mother? He's desperate, I said, and furious. I humiliated him, made him feel helpless. He can't forgive me for that. What are you going to do? Mabel asked. I don't know, I admitted, but I have to protect myself. If he starts spreading rumors about my incapacity, if he tries to get custody, we have to be proactive, Mabel said firmly. I have a nephew who works at Morris and Associates. He handles this kind of stuff. I'll call him right now. She pulled out her cell phone and went into the living room. I could hear her muffled voice, but I couldn't make out the words. She came back a few minutes later. "Good news," Mabel said. "Alex can see us tomorrow at 10. He'll advise us on the best course of action." The next day, Mabel and I sat in the office of Alex Morris, a young lawyer with attentive eyes and a neat beard. He listened to my story, occasionally making notes in his notebook. "Mrs. Carraway, your situation is difficult, but not hopeless," he said when I finished. "Let's go over it in order. First, your son has indeed committed financial abuse by misusing the power of attorney. You have every right to file a police report." "I don't want to do that," I shook my head. "No matter what, he's my son." "I understand." Alex nodded. "But it's important to know that you have that option. Now, about his attempts to make you look incapable. It's a serious threat, and we need to take precautions." "What kind of precautions?" I asked. "First, I recommend that you undergo an independent medical examination, including a cognitive evaluation," Alex said. "This will give us documentation of your capacity in case your son tries to initiate the process of declaring you incompetent." "That's a good idea," Mabel agreed. "Secondly, we should think about reviewing all the legal documents," Alex continued. "Powers of attorney wills. Make sure your son doesn't have any authority to make decisions for you." "What about the money?" I asked. He still hadn't returned what he'd taken. "We have a few options here." Alex flipped through a page of his notebook. "We can send a formal claim to the bank. Or we can send your son a pretrial claim demanding the funds back. If he refuses, we'll have grounds for a civil suit." "What if he does try to get custody of me?" I asked. That was my main fear. To get custody of an able-bodied adult, you need a very good reason, Alex said confidently. "Medical reports, testimonials from neighbors, friends. If you get an independent examination, if you have witnesses to prove your capacity, your son's chances are minimal." I nodded, feeling somewhat relieved. But in the back of my mind, I knew Aiden wouldn't just stop. He was stubborn just like me. "There's something else," Alex said, hesitating. "If you're really worried that your son might take more aggressive action, there's another precaution." "What is it?" I asked. "You can set up a trust fund," Alex explained. "Transfer your assets, your house, your savings, to a trustee or a financial institution. It would protect your assets from any encroachment." "A trust fund," I repeated. "It sounds complicated." "It really isn't," Alex smiled. "It's standard procedure for asset protection. I can prepare all the necessary documents." We discussed the details for about another hour. When Mabel and I left the office, I had a folder with documents and a clear plan of action. "Do you feel more confident?" Mabel asked me as we got into her car. "Yes," I nodded, "but I'm sad that it's come to this, that I have to defend myself against my own son. It's not your fault, Nancy." Mabel squeezed my hand. "You gave him everything, and he—" She didn't finish the sentence, but I could see what she meant. On the way home, we stopped at a coffee shop. Sitting at a table by the window with a cup of latte, I noticed Betty Parker, a neighbor who lived 3 houses down from me. She saw us and headed over to our table. "Nancy, Mabel," she said hello. "It's good to see you." "Hello, Betty," I smiled. "Would you like to join us?" "I'd love to." She sat down and ordered tea. "Nancy, I have to tell you something," she began, lowering her voice. "Aiden came to see me yesterday." I tensed up. "Did he?" "Yes." Betty looked worried. "He asked me about you, said you'd become distracted, that sometimes you didn't recognize people. Asked if I'd noticed anything strange about your behavior. And what did you say?" I asked, feeling my insides clench. "I said he must be confusing you with someone else," Betty said firmly. "Because you're one of the most collected and clear-headed women I know. And then she asked why he was spreading such rumors about his own mother. I exhaled a sigh of relief. Thank you, Betty. You're a true friend. He was embarrassed and left quickly, Betty continued. And then I found out that he'd been all over the street asking about it. But nobody believed him. We all know you too well. That means he's serious, said Mabel. He's collecting evidence for his custody case. Custody? Betty's eyes went wide. You're kidding. Aiden wants to get custody of you? I'm afraid so. I sighed and briefly told Betty the story of the money and the cards. What a shame. Betty shook her head when I was done. Stealing from your own mother. And now to try to make her look crazy. No, that's too much. As we drove home, we saw Aiden's car parked in front of my house. My heart sped up. Do you want me to stay with you? Mabel asked. I shook my head. No, I'll be fine. But thanks for the offer. Call me if you need anything. Mabel hugged me. Anytime. I got out of the car and headed toward the house. Aiden was sitting on the porch steps. When I approached, he stood up. Hi, Mom, he said, and there was no warmth or remorse in his voice, just tension and something else, a cold determination. Hello, Aiden. I stopped a few feet away from him. I understand you're safely back from your trip. No thanks to you, he snapped. We had to go to the consulate, humiliate ourselves, explain that our cards stopped working. Do you have any idea what we went through? I do, I nodded. About the same thing I'd been through when I found out you'd stolen my money. Aiden grimaced. You're at it again. I told you I was going to get that money back. When? I asked. After your vacation? What if I needed it in the meantime? If I needed medication, home repairs? Mom, you have other savings, he said impatiently. You've always been saving. It doesn't matter, I replied firmly. You took my money without permission. That's stealing, Aiden, no matter how well-intentioned you pretend to be. He crossed his arms across his chest. I didn't come here to discuss this again. I came to talk about your condition. My condition? I raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Mom, you're forgetting things. He looked at me with feigned concern. You get confused. First you wire me the money yourself, then you accuse me of stealing it. That's not normal. I felt a wave of anger rising inside me, but I forced myself to stay calm. Aiden, I know what you're doing, I said quietly. I know you went to the neighbors asking about me. I know you sent Thelma to convince me to move into a nursing home. He looked surprised, but quickly pulled himself together. I'm worried about you, Mom. You need help. No, Aiden. I shook my head. You need my money, my house, my possessions, and you're willing to make me look crazy to get it. That's not true, he exclaimed, but his eyes gave him away. I saw a lawyer today, I said, looking him straight in the eye, and I've made a decision that will protect me from you. Aiden went pale. What do you mean? I'm setting up a trust fund, I announced. All my assets, the house, my savings, my insurance will be put into the trust. You won't get a dime, Aiden, ever. The announcement of the trust fund had a bombshell effect on Aiden. His face turned red, then pale, his eyes widened with shock, then narrowed with anger. You can't do this. He gritted through gritted teeth. You have no right. I have every right, I replied calmly. It's my property, and I have the right to use it as I see fit. I am your son, he exclaimed. I am your only child. Everything must go to me. Must? I raised an eyebrow. Why? Because you stole my savings? Or because you're trying to make me look crazy in front of the neighbors? Aiden took a step back, his face contorted with anger and, surprisingly, resentment. You're just getting back at me for the money thing. It's petty, Mom. No, Aiden. I shook my head. It's not revenge. It's self-defense. I'm protecting myself from a man who has proven himself untrustworthy. You can't disinherit me, he raised his voice. It's not fair. What would be fair is if you treated me with respect, I replied. If you saw me not as an ATM, but as a mother who sacrificed her whole life for you. I've always respected you, he objected, but his eyes were running, giving away the lie. Dash, dash, really question mark. I crossed my arms over my chest. Then why did you tell the neighbors I was losing my mind? Why were you trying to convince Thelma that I needed custody? Aiden opened his mouth, then closed it. There was a look of confusion on his face. He clearly hadn't expected me to find out about his maneuvers so quickly. Yeah, I'm really worried about you, he finally said. Your behavior lately. My behavior is perfectly normal, I interrupted, and that's what any independent specialist will tell you. Tomorrow I have a full medical evaluation, including a cognitive evaluation. Aiden turned even paler. His plan was falling apart before his eyes. Mom, don't do anything stupid, he said in a pleading tone. Let's talk. I'll pay you back, I promise. Just give me some time. You've had time, Aiden, I replied. A lot of time, your whole life. And what did you do with it? Cheating, manipulating, taking, and not giving. That's not fair, he exclaimed. You're making me look like some kind of monster. No, Aiden, I shook my head sadly. You made yourself who you are. I just finally saw it. I turned to go into the house, but he grabbed my arm. Mom, wait, please. He sounded desperate. Perry and we're in trouble. Serious problems. I stopped and looked at him. What kind of problems? Financial, he lowered his eyes. We owed money. A lot. And that's why you stole my money? I asked. I didn't steal it. He was getting angry again. I just, borrowed it. But then everything went wrong. We thought we could pay it back after vacation. But now what? I watched his face closely. I'm facing redundancy, he confessed. The company's downsizing, and we have mortgages and loans. And you want me to help you out again? I finished for him. Mom, you're the only one who can help. He looked at me pleadingly. I'll pay it all back, I swear. I took a deep breath. A part of me, the maternal part of me that would never go away, wanted to help him, protect him, save him. But the other part, the more rational part, reminded me of everything I'd been through. No, Aiden, I said firmly. I'm not going to be your backup wallet anymore. You're a grown man. You can solve your own problems. His face contorted with anger. Fine, he shouted. Stay here alone. You think anyone cares about you? You think these neighbors, this Mabel, they're real friends? They're just old gossip girls with nothing better to do. Go away, Aiden. I opened the door. Get out before you say something you'll regret. Oh, I'm already sorry, he shouted, backing toward his car. I regret wasting so much time on you, for coming every month, sitting there and listening to you whine about your bad back and expensive medications. I stared at him in silence, feeling every word hit me like a stone, but I didn't let myself show the pain. Instead, I just closed the door and sank into a chair in the hallway, listening to him continue to scream outside. A few minutes later, there was the roar of an engine. Aiden had driven away. I sat in silence, looking at the wall of family photos. Aiden at 5 on the merry-go-round. Aiden at 12 on his bike. Aiden at 18 in his graduation gown. My boy, my son, who is no more. The next day, I had a full medical exam at the clinic Alex had recommended. The doctors were thorough. They tested my physical health, my memory, my ability to make decisions. And at the end, they concluded the patient is fully capable, has a clear mind and preserved cognitive functions. With these documents, I went back to Alex Morris's office. "Well done, Mrs. Carraway," he said as he looked over the report. "We now have official proof of your legal capacity. This will be important if your son does try to initiate custody proceedings." "Do you think he can?" I asked, "after your conversation about the trust fund?" Alex hesitated. "Maybe. People faced with the prospect of losing their inheritance often act irrationally." "Well, then let's set up the trust," I said firmly, "and rewrite the will." The next few days were spent in legal procedures. I set up the trust, appointing a reliable financial company as trustee. My house, my savings, everything came under the protection of the trust. I retained the right to use the assets during my lifetime, but when I died, they were to go not to Aiden, but to a local fund for the elderly. Alex also helped me make a new will, in which I clearly stated that I was disinheriting my son because of his unworthy behavior. We ensured against any possible challenge, making the procedure as transparent and legal as possible. "That's it, Mrs. Carraway," Alex said when the last documents were signed. "You are now protected. Your son won't be able to gain control of your finances, even if he tries to get custody." "Thank you, Alex." I felt a strange mixture of relief and sadness. I never thought I'd have to defend myself against my own child. "Unfortunately, it's not uncommon." He looked at me sympathetically. "Financial abuse by family members is one of the most common forms of elder abuse." "Really?" I was surprised. I thought my situation was unique. "Not at all." Alex shook his head. "In fact, there are even support groups for people in this situation. If you want, I can give you information." I wondered. The thought that I wasn't alone in my distress was both sad and comforting. "Yes, please," I nodded. "I think it would be helpful for me to talk to people who have been through the same thing I have." Alex gave me a brochure about the Silver Safety Support Group that met every Thursday at the Union City Community Center. I decided to go to the next meeting. On Thursday evening, overcome with awkwardness, I walked into the small auditorium of the community center. There were about 15 people already gathered there, most around my age or older. They were sitting in a circle on simple plastic chairs, holding cups of coffee or tea. "Hello." A woman in her 60s with a short haircut and a kind smile greeted me. "I'm Eleanor, the group coordinator. Is this your first time with us?" "Yes," I nodded. "My name is Nancy Carraway. It's a pleasure, Nancy." She shook my hand. "You're welcome to join us. We're just getting started." I sat down in a vacant chair, feeling a little unsure of myself. Eleanor stood in the center of the circle. "Friends, Nancy has joined us today," she announced. "Let's give her a warm welcome." Friendly cheers erupted. Several people waved and smiled at me. "Nancy, our group is for people who have experienced financial abuse by loved ones," Eleanor explained. "Here we share our experiences, support each other, and learn to move on with our lives." I nodded, feeling a lump in my throat. "If you want, you can just listen today," she added softly. "No one has to talk if they're not ready." "Thank you," I whispered. The meeting began. One by one, people told their stories. A gray-haired man named George talked about a nephew who had tricked him into signing the papers to sell his house. A frail woman named Martha spoke tearfully about her daughter who had stolen her pension. A full-figured lady in a brightly colored dress named Dorothy described how her grandson had extorted money from her under the pretext of a supposed illness. As I listened, tears came to my eyes. All these people, so different, united by the same pain of betrayal by those they loved and trusted. "Nancy," Eleanor said to me as the circle of stories reached me, "would you like to share your story?" I hesitated for a moment, but then made up my mind. Slowly, choosing my words, I told what had happened. The theft of the money, Aiden's attempt to make me look incompetent, my decision to set up a trust and disinherit him. When I finished, the room was quiet. "Thank you, Nancy," Eleanor said. "You have shown great courage in defending yourself in this way." "I don't feel courageous," I admitted. "I feel devastated, like a part of me is dead." "That's natural," George nodded. "When someone close to you betrays you, it's like a death. You have to go through grief to learn to move on." "Have you learned to move on?" I asked. "Yes," he smiled. "Not right away, but over time, with the help of these people," he circled his hand, "and with new goals in life." After the meeting, we talked for a long time over tea. I learned that Eleanor had once been a judge and had started this group after handling several cases of financial abuse of the elderly. George was a former builder and now helped renovate homes for low-income seniors. Martha taught financial literacy at a community college. "You know, Nancy," Dorothy said to me as we were getting ready to leave, "the most important thing is not to let bitterness poison your life. Yes, we've been betrayed. Yes, it hurts. But if we let that pain define our lives, they will win completely." Her words struck a chord with me. On the drive home, I thought about how for years my life had revolved around Aiden, his needs, his problems, his wants. Even after he'd grown up and started his own family, I'd continued to live for him, saving money that I secretly hoped would help him in his time of need. But now that part of my life was over, and there was an emptiness ahead, frightening, but also full of opportunity. The next day, I started small. I uncluttered the closet, throwing out Aiden's old things that I'd kept for decades. I boxed up the family photos and put them in the attic. Not because I wanted to forget, you don't forget things like that, but because I needed to move on. A week after my first support group visit, I got a call from Eleanor. "Nancy," she said, "we're planning a financial security workshop for seniors at the library. Would you like to help? Your experience as a secretary in a law firm might be helpful." I agreed without hesitation. And that was the beginning. Gradually, I became more and more involved in the group. I helped organize meetings, handed out information brochures, spoke at seminars. I talked about my experiences and warned others about the signs of financial abuse. Mabel supported me in everything I did. She often came to events, helped organize, involved other neighbors. "Nancy, you've changed," she said to me one day while we were having tea after a seminar. "There's a strength. You think so?" I smiled. "Definitely," she nodded. "You used to be quiet, compliant, and now it's like you've squared your shoulders, like you see your worth." I thought about what she said. Maybe she's right. Losing my son, emotional, not physical, has been the hardest thing I've ever done, but it also made me find strength I didn't even know I had. Aiden never showed up again. A month after I'd last seen him, a letter arrived from his lawyer demanding that I reconsider the disinheritance. I gave it to Alex, and he drafted a response, explaining in detail why the request had no legal basis. No further attempts were made. I learned from neighbors that Aiden and Perry had sold their house and moved to another town. I didn't know if they had solved their financial problems, if Aiden had found a new job, and, to my surprise, I found that I didn't care too much. Of course, sometimes, especially at night, I felt homesick. I remembered Aiden the boy, his laughter, his first steps, his pride when he fixed the kitchen faucet for the first time. I remembered how he snuggled up to me when he was afraid of a thunderstorm, how he brought me flowers from the backyard, how he read aloud his first essays. But then I remembered the last few years, his indifference, his constant requests for money, his neglect. And I realized that maybe I had lost him much sooner than I realized. On the day of my 68th birthday, my new friends from my support group gathered at my house. Eleanor, George, Martha, Dorothy, Mabel and her husband came over. My neighbors Betty, James, and Louise stopped by. The house was filled with laughter, conversation, warmth. To Nancy, George proclaimed a toast, raising his champagne glass. To a woman who not only protected herself, but helped so many others, everyone raised their glasses. I looked around the living room, filled with the people who had become my new family, not bound by blood, but bound by something perhaps more enduring: mutual respect, support, genuine care. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A message from Aiden, the first in many months. Happy birthday, Mom. Hope you're okay. A. I looked at the screen, not knowing what to feel. Anger, resentment, hope. But I found I didn't feel anything in particular. Just the quiet certainty that my life was now on its own path. Without him, I tucked the phone back into my pocket without answering. Maybe someday I'd be ready to talk to him. Maybe someday he'd actually change, realize what he'd done wrong. But right now, I knew one thing. I was no longer a victim. I will not let anyone, not even my own son, take away my dignity, my self-respect, my right to a happy life. To new beginnings, I raised my glass to my friends and to the lessons that make us stronger. The glasses clinked, meeting in the center of the table. I smiled, looking at the reflection of the evening sun in the crystal facets. Life went on, a different one, not the one I'd dreamed of, but maybe the one I needed.